got a cool topic for you today. It's on remembering to remember, right? Because when I learned memory techniques, I learned, the memory palace, the linking method, all of these cool things, right? And when you go out and practice them, they work. However, there are times where you could know all the best techniques, but still forget to use them, right? And the classic example for me that comes up is, I went to a networking event once, right? And people were giving me their names, all that sort of stuff, and me just forgetting. Now, this is after I learned memory techniques, right? So you'd think that, I'd be able to remember, and I did for the most part, but there were some people that I totally forgot. Why was that the case, right? The case was that I wasn't really mindful, right, of turning on the switch to remember people, right, to remember their names. And this is the issue of, memory in general is that, the techniques are great. You still have to remember to use the bloody thing, right? So, and I learned this, I remember watching Ron White's video a while ago where he was remembering everyone's names in the audience. And they interviewed him at the start. He said, look, I have to get my mind into a state where I have to tell myself that I'm remembering these names, right? And he was doing it. Right? He was telling himself, he was putting into that state where he was ready now to tackle that challenge, right? So remembering to remember, right? And I just had a couple of clients before, and that was a topic that we went through. How do you create memory triggers so that you can remember, right? Without having to remember. That's the cool part, right? I'll give you an example of this. When I used to hop in my car, right? I used to just turn on the radio and listen to music and then just drive off, right? And then totally forget, because I'd always plan to read my prayers going into the car, right? Don't want anything to happen. and I'd be reading my prayers and stuff. And then going about my journey. But there'd be times where I'd just forget, right? My mind's on other things, all that sort of stuff, which, happens, right? But what I did was I created a memory trigger. And that memory trigger was, as I got inside my car, just when I was about to press the button on the radio, and I used to have this little circular button, just when I was about to press it, I'd get an association to reading my prayers, right? So I wouldn't end up pressing the button. It'll be like, okay, excuse me. It'll be like, okay, now I have to read my prayers, right? So I'd go do that. So pressing the button was my trigger to reading those prayers. Before that, again, I wasn't reminding myself to do it. I wasn't, pumping myself up to go and do this thing. No, I was only reminded when I was about to press that trigger, right? That it's not a trigger, but a memory trigger for the button, right? You can do this in so many different ways, right? My networking example, how I could have done it, and I do it now anyway, is instead of remembering or being mindful that I have to remember people's names, right? I just go about my daily business, whatever it is, and then as soon as I'm about to go through that door to that event, the door is my trigger. Door is my trigger, and it's not always the case. Obviously, sometimes you meet people, before the door, all that sort of stuff. But I find a trigger point just before I enter that networking environment, right? And that door acts as my trigger, and it's almost like a light switch, right? You don't carry the light switch with you, so why prepare yourself to remember something, right? The light switch is always at a static location, right? And you turn it on when you need it at that location. So I turned my light switch on just before I entered the networking space. And that light switch was, okay, you're about to enter, just like the Ron White example. I'm about to enter into this space. I have to be mindful of who I meet. I have to make sure that I listen intently on what these people are saying, provide some, care, all of that stuff. Remember their name, remember the person, and just be mindful, almost use it like a meditation state, right? That's it. And then once I'm ready, then I go and do that thing, right? Before then, I didn't have to remember it, which was awesome, right? A lot of the things we try and pump ourselves up for, right? To make sure you do it. Here, with this technique, you don't have to. You only remember when you need to. And that's the benefit, right? Other examples, I'm just trying to think, right? Maybe you can comment down below and tell me what examples do you have for me that you just can't remember, right? To do. Like, is it a particular thing, like where you park your car, or I don't know, a food order, or I don't know, what you have to do for your family and friends and stuff like that. Just things that are easily forgetting, like, leaving the iron on or whatever, right? Iron might be a classic example for a lot of people, or, the stove, right? If you leave the iron on, you might think, okay, what's the thing before that I can create a trigger on, right? So have a think, maybe comment down below, because I'd love to, not react, but respond to what you guys are coming up with, because let's make this a conversation, because it's better when we can, work and help each other out, rather than me just talking to a camera, right? Or my phone in this case. So that's what I'd like to do. Comment down below if you think of some ideas that you've got that will help you, right? Or if you've learnt anything in this video on creating triggers. Write down your trigger on what's going to help you, because that's going to help everyone. I mean, how awesome, right? I make these videos, it's not for me, it's for you. And if you can take the knowledge out of these videos and share it with everyone else, my goodness, we're all learning, right? So go and do that, and share the video to others as well, obviously, like it, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, so getting back to the memory triggers, right? What else can we do these triggers for, right? What do you have to remember? Right? Think about it. I had one student once, and she was having difficulty sort of getting to her homework, and I thought, okay, you go past the desk, why don't you use the desk as your trigger point? And that way you can just look at the desk and go, oh yeah, homework, I have to do it. Bang. See what I mean? So, or you're about to head outside home, and the trigger point is just before you head outside, could be the door, there's a key stuck at the door, right? Or there's a key blocking your way through the door. You still have to use memory techniques, right? Make a visual. And that's to potentially remember your keys. Like, have I got my keys? Because the key's blocking me on the doorway. Right now, you can remember, before heading outside, you can remember the things that you need to take with you, right? Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe you got to take a particular form to someone, right? And you're reminding yourself, you're putting in your notes the reminders, you're doing all that sort of stuff, but then you automatically forget as you head out the door. This way, what you can do is just don't worry about the reminders or anything else. Just make that little association just before you head out the door. Because what's going to happen is that you'll only be reminded by it through the trigger. And then you'll say, the door, why is there a form blocking the way through the door? I have to get my form. Luckily, I remembered. See what I mean? One that happened to me is I forgot that I actually had a client. Bizarre things happen, right? You can have the best memory techniques, be the best memory person in the world, and still forget. It happens to the best of us, right? So what I did was, okay, what do I do before my client, right? I make sure I'm in front of my computer, because majority of my clients are in front of the computer, right, on Zoom. So I have to make sure I'm in front of the computer, right? Because if I am, then I have the Zoom open or whatever. But if I'm not, right, that could be an issue, right? So the memory trigger is not effective. It's only effective when I'm in front of my computer. If I'm not in front of my computer, I could go about my day and totally forget about it, right? Now, yes, I could set up alarms, reminders, all of that. But remember, the whole idea behind a memory trigger is so that you're getting the alarm just beforehand to do that thing, right? And the alarm is your memory trigger. So you don't have to set up alarms or to-dos or tasks or anything like that, right? This is the power of memory. So what I would do, right, if I'm anywhere else, right, I have to think of, okay, what's the constant thing that I've got, that I'm doing, right? What's constant? You wouldn't necessarily place it on clothes, right? Because clothes change. Unless you're wearing something the same every day, but I wouldn't necessarily trigger on the clothes. Are you saying something to yourself at a particular time? Are you passing by somewhere at a particular time? So you got to look at the constants, right? If there's no constant, then you really have to look at, okay, what am I doing now, right? You look at what am I doing now. So for example, let's say I'm in a totally different environment to having a constant thing that's going to trigger my memory, right? For let's say meeting a client at say 9 o'clock, right? And 8:30, I'm out and about, I'm getting coffee, I'm getting a drink, whatever it is, right? I'm getting breakfast and I'm walking. Now, I have to make that thing that I do before my client that trigger, right? Now, I may not know what I'm doing before my client, but if I give myself different scenarios, then I can make those triggers. So for example, right, I could be out and about, right? Getting coffee, breakfast, whatever, that could be one trigger. I could be in the bathroom, right? Say the bathroom's a trigger. So you try and find scenarios before that event, meaning that you could be doing, right? Now, you're not gonna obviously guess everything that you could be doing beforehand, right? And believe it or not, if you've got a calendar, you probably know what you're doing anyway, so you can use that calendar item as a trigger. So I don't want to complicate this too much, but I love to dive deep into these things, right? As you know, because this is what I do. I dig deep so I can help my clients out with the smaller stuff, right? And if you're listening and watching this, I'm doing more of these videos where I'm doing a deep dive into memory, and memory triggers is today's topic. So what you can do if you want to create a trigger for that moment in time before is look at all the scenarios and use them as triggers. Now, the good thing is, as I mentioned, there's calendar items or things in there. So trigger it to those calendar items. So that's pretty much it. The best thing to do, however, is to go through and do this exercise, because once you do it, then you find out what works and what doesn't work. And what doesn't work is just as important, because then you can say, you know what, I've tried this, I've tried that, it didn't work, right? And that's great, because now, eventually you can look at, okay, why didn't it work? Maybe it was too far away from my initial meeting time, or, thing that I had to do, or it was too late, right? Or the trigger was just not in the right place at the right time, or whatever it is, or maybe I just couldn't make it work. So if you're watching this and you've tried it or whatever it is, comment down below, what's worked for you, what hasn't worked for you, because these are all part of our learnings, right? I'm constantly making memory triggers up because the clients that I see, they've all got different needs. So I'm always learning about it. I'm always creating new ones. And the more you create, the better you get at it as well. Now, how cool is it to be able to remember stuff without even having to, think about it, right? That's what memory triggers are. So practice, that's the key. See, and this is an exercise you can do, right? See what you can do throughout the day. Like, make a listing of things that you think a memory trigger would help you with, right? And if you want, you can write down the list below, because that would be pretty cool for others to see as well. And they're like, oh, okay, such and such is doing this as well. I'm doing this, here's my memory trigger. So if we help each other out, that's pretty cool. And I'll mention in another video as well, is if you're commenting below, then we can sort of have like almost coaching sessions underneath where we're all helping each other out. And how awesome is that? As your memory coach, I think it's a great opportunity to learn from one another, and that's the best way. So there we go. That's the memory triggers. I'll probably do more videos on memory triggers as well, because I think it's a really cool topic to be able to remember stuff without having to remember. Because there's a lot of things like task managers now, to-do lists, all of that stuff. But if you can do it without really the need to have these things and just totally rely on your memory, then great. There's nothing wrong. I mean, I use task managers and stuff like that, but I don't go overboard, right? I'm a tech nerd, so I love anything technology related. I have that on my computer or online stuff. So I do all that. But there's a lot of cool things we can do that is just in our brain. And that's what I'm fascinated with. So tell me your thoughts about memory triggers. You know, have you used them before? Have you implemented these things? And or after you've watched this video and you've tried it, how did you go? Comment down below, because I'd love to hear your thoughts and you know, what you've done. Other people can see what you've done, and share and like this video, because if more people know about it, gee, how cool is that? So there you go. If you like this stuff, let me know, because I'll make more of the deep dives of memory, and we'll get deeper into another topic. I might even do a live, but this time let you guys know, because I tried doing a live before and there was 0 people on there. So I think maybe I should let people know. But anyway, there we go. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you soon. Bye.